couple of months ago, I overheard my brother and my mother talking about an old high school teammate of ours that played baseball with us. That was in a rehab facility for drugs. Um, at first, I didn't know who they were talking about, but I later found out that they were talking about one of my brother's best friend. And while he wasn't in there for the use of marijuana to him was definitely a step that led him in the direction that brought him to where he is at now. And over the last couple of years, it's marijuana has been easier for our teenagers to get, and it has become more accessible to them, and it is negatively impacting their lives. We all may know somebody who uses the drug. We all may be close to somebody who uses it often, but we often overlook the dangers of that come with the use of cannabis. Now, I was curious to kind of find out how using it can put us in more danger. And after looking at a bunch of articles and observations and just experiments done by scientists, I've been able to kind of analyze the dangers of marijuana, especially to teens. Today I'll be talking about how easily accessible marijuana has become in our country for teenagers. I'll be talking about how it affects their health, and I'll also be talking about how over time it can start to really negatively impact their lives. So to bring us to our first point, marijuana has been legalized more than ever throughout the years. It's just getting legalized in more and more states. This map right here shows just about where it's legalized. The states in yellow are the only states where marijuana is still illegal, meaning that for the most part in our country, pretty much every state has legal marijuana in some sort of way, whether it's medically or recreationally, it's legal in some sort of way. This means that it's more easily accessible to teens. You know, it's not so hard for a teenager to have a friend or have a sibling who's old enough to go into these legal weed shops and buy these cannabis products for them. Also, so these teens might go into the shops themselves. It's not hard to find an illegal cannabis store or somewhere that doesn't require age verification. A group of authors in an article on healthday.com, they were curious to know how many of these shops really enforce these age verification rules, and they found that in 80 of the online dispensaries they looked at in their area, they found that 20% of these shops didn't enforce any age verification rules, meaning that anybody under the age of 21 could just order from these shops and have these cannabis products delivered to their house. Teenagers may also obtain these cannabis products through dealers or through the black market at school. Now, these dealers, they're not very hard to find. They may be found at school or at work, or it might just be somebody they know. Personally, I was in high school not too long ago, and it wasn't hard to know somebody who knew somebody who sold cannabis products, or sometimes I would walk into the bathroom during lunch or class and see people smoking, or see people, someone buying something off of somebody else. This can be really bad for teens because we often don't know what can be inside these products, because these products aren't regulated. In the LA Times, Ryan Jainsman, founder of a company named THC Design, he compares the black market of the drug industry, of the cannabis industry, kind of to being like the flea market of buying clothes or something. You might see something at the flea market that looks real, that you think is real, for really cheap, but it's not the real thing. It's the same thing in the black market. He says that you might be buying a product that looks authentic, that you think is authentic, for a discounted price, yet it isn't the real thing. So now that we've kind of talked about how easily accessible it is for teenagers to get their hands on these products, it's kind of time to talk about how marijuana can really start to affect the health of these teenagers. First of all, marijuana has a potential for addiction, and it can alter the human brain. As you can see in this image right here, This is a healthy brain compared to a brain damaged by marijuana. The brain damaged by marijuana use literally has holes inside of it because it kills your brain cells. Um, it can this is what a what a brain that when someone who's addicted to marijuana, this is kind of what their brain looks like. A study in the CDC, and they found that approximately 3 in 10 people who use marijuana tend to have an addiction. They tend to get an addiction just over time. They also concluded that teens who you started to use marijuana at a younger age tended to have a higher risk at getting this addiction, this use disorder as they call it. A study in the now addiction is defined by a variety of symptoms, such as cravings, whether it contributes to failures at school or work, and symptoms just as such as anxiety, when you don't use it and stuff like that. The University College of London, they conducted a study, and they found that approximately 50% of the teens that they studied had about 6 or more of these symptoms. And while this may not be a really big number, while they may not have had a really big sample, it kind of just gives us a picture of what the teenagers in our country look like. Now that we've talked about how marijuana can slowly start to impact the health of our teens, it's kind of time to talk about how these effects on their health can slowly start to impact their overall lives. Frequent use of marijuana can start to affect the everyday lives of teens, because it can they start having less motivation, they start having they have decreased participation in school and extracurricular activities. Since marijuana can alter the brain, it often alters the brain to the point where teenagers often lose their drive and they lose motivation to want to do better for themselves. Studies have shown, the National Library of Medicine in 2016, they posted an article that showed that students who frequently partook in using marijuana often had lower GPAs, lower grades, and a higher dropout rate. So that kind of concludes the idea that students who use marijuana have often less participation in school. Like I mentioned before, students may buy products from the black market, and this can often be dangerous because oftentimes these fake products can be filled with pesticides. It can be filled with since these products aren't regulated, they can kind of be filled with anything that we don't really know about. An article in 2019 posted by NBC Los Angeles, they stated that they tested different amounts of cannabis, false cannabis products that they found online. They found that they concluded that a lot of these products had illegal amounts of pesticides. They concluded that a fake cartridge that they bought had illegal amounts of heavy metals such as lead, and this can be really bad because this can lead to lifelong disabilities such as hearing loss. It can, these pesticides can lead to things like Parkinson's disease and just a lot of memory focused diseases that you don't really want to be a part in your life. So now that we've kind of talked about how it can affect the lives of teens, it's kind of, we can conclude kind of everything. Marijuana can be really dangerous for teens, and it's really easy for them to get their hands on nowadays. Today we kind of talked about how easy it is to get their hands on them, how it can start to negatively affect their lives, and how it can negatively start to affect their health. So while we all may know somebody who smokes cannabis, who use it in some sort of way, it's kind of important to remember the dangers of it. As teenagers too, it's important to remember the dangers of it, because we don't want to live with problems in our lives, and just try to stay away from it.